mean, I'm really passionate about architecture, really passionate about the built environment, and you face the same challenges with photographing buildings as photographing anything else. It's a language I speak, in a sense. Unfortunately, I think often photography has a bad influence. Well, especially to do with architecture. I mean, there's this thing that I like to call magazine architecture, which is buildings designed as a direct result of something seen in a magazine, and especially things that look really glamorous in a magazine may or may not work as buildings. The camera can give you a sort of drama of the place. It gives you the surface. It can give you a tone, sort of a sense of there. But for architects or anyone really interested in planning, it's not enough information. It's really evocative, and it must be complemented by other stuff. Because photography is a flattening. I mean, it does render everything two-dimensional again. You should be improving what you're shooting, in a sense, or at least finding its best side. Yeah, the camera always lies, and because you're generally trying to please your client, be it the architect or the publisher, you're trying to make everything look good, and I mean, some things shouldn't be made to look good. I mean, some things are bad. There's an interesting tension between descriptive and evocative. Quite often photographers are really interested in stretching the medium, and they may get too far away from the subject matter, describing it. But I think that's a tremendously productive tension. I think that's the core, the essence of photography anyway, is this really tense and interesting relationship with the world. If a building, for example, is incredibly famous or fashionable, it will in fact exist more thoroughly as photographs will spread all around the world than by people actually visiting it and experiencing it. Buildings through photography can exist as an idea. We think of famous architectural photographs like the Schroeder House by Gerrit Rietveld. And I made a bit of a pilgrimage down from Amsterdam on the train because I'd seen, obviously, the wonderful photographs of it. And I was just astounded and horrified with how small and how sort of insignificant this thing was. And most importantly, the thing I'd never spotted from any of the photographs I'd seen, it's actually semi-detached. I learned an enormous amount that day about the transforming power of the medium. Because I think we are in the midst of quite an interesting period. Because if you kind of look at it from a sort of global sweep, there's been no real consensus in our culture about what a building should look like since modernism. There hasn't been this really big idea, there hasn't been the thought that architecture is absolutely central to solving our problems or what it is to live in a community or to be human. But I think now, and I think we can thank global warming for this, that is changing. Because now we are moving forward into a situation where architecture can offer itself as being absolutely central to solving one of the biggest crises that face the whole world, which is sustainability. And architecture can again muscle its way into the centre of this discussion. He gives the architects and the readers of the book the respect of taking them very seriously and asking them to come along with him. There's no sort of magazine patronising talk. He's not wasting any time listing rooms or describing it. He knows the photographs are there. In the book he provides a context, a socioeconomic context as much as a geographical one, and a kind of architectural background to it that is sometimes challenging. I had to use a dictionary occasionally, and actually sometimes quite funny too. There are a number of black and white details and things throughout the book. Those were the photographs that I was most interested in, really. To a certain extent, I could get bored turning up to shoot yet another house with some rooms and a roof and a context. But I really wanted to push the boundaries in a gentle way of what's expected in a serious architectural book. Like, there's quite a few people in the book. Because houses are, after all, designed to be occupied by people. But it is generally accepted that you don't get people in photographs and architectural books. And I wanted, where possible, to mess that up. But only where possible, in the sense that only when they are the people that are there and it's real. I wasn't trucking models in. Very interested in trying to break up the rhythm or even frustrating expectations in any publication, because then you get someone's attention. I mean, if they just see what they expect to see, it's a kind of flick and put it back down. I do think, as a rule, photography has too many rules. Keep all the verticals straight, that's an obsession with architectural photography. But sometimes you're going to get a better image by letting that slide. So it's a really good starting point, especially if you're stuck, is to break a rule. In any endeavour, you've also got to not be afraid of doing the obvious.